Hey folks, how's it going? Gotta make sure I got the right microphone connected. Hey, thanks for joining me. I got so many important stories to hit you with today. Police given new abilities to arrest peaceful protesters. Of course, getting scant coverage in the mainstream media. I like the word scant. I feel like scant doesn't get its due. But I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover, I have some very bad news coming up, unfortunately, but I also have news. I mean, not that this is good news, but news about Big Pharma suppressing and censoring your tweets. We now have the proof. I know a lot of you out there are like, well, I knew they were suppressing. Yeah, no, there's a lot of those things where you're like, I knew it was happening, but as you're saying it, people are going, oh, you're one of those crazies who believes that, and you're like, and then the proof comes out and you go, ha ha, and they go, I still think you're crazy. Even though you do technically have the proof for this thing and that thing and everything else you've ever said. But still, I'm going to get into that. We're going to have a goddamn philosophical conversation about AI coming up and about how it could ruin all of our lives or make all of our lives much better. And we're going to have that conversation because the mainstream media, they're either too dumb or they're too owned by corporate America, which doesn't want you having this conversation, or both. It's really both. Spoiler alert, that's the answer. Both. Too dumb and too bought by corporate America to have this conversation. So we're going to have that conversation. And I'm also going to reveal something about AI that you might not know. I think you probably don't know. But all right, we're going to get to all of that coming up right now. But by the way, this live stream is only going out to everybody who clicks either subscribe, follow, or thumbs up right now. Everybody else will get cut off. I wish that were true. I wish I had a way to do that, but I actually don't. But just pretend you believe that if you don't click thumbs up, subscribe, or follow on whichever platform you're on, and leave a comment of some sort, then this live stream is going to cut off right now. All right. So first story. The police are likely going to be given, and I'll preface this by saying this is police in England and Wales. And some of you are thinking, oh, I thought it was only the United States and I only care about the United States, so fuck any other news story. But the truth, there's two things here. One is this live stream, which is also a podcast called either Moment of Clarity or The Lee Camp Show, depending on which podcast platform you're on. It goes out to people in every different country. We have people from all over the world. In fact, if you're from somewhere other than the United States, please throw a comment in there saying hi from, and give your country, give your country a shout out, even though I think nation states are bullshit, but still give your country a shout out. Why not? So that's one reason I'm covering this. But the second reason is that a lot of these techniques for crushing protest, for crushing those of us who stand up, a lot of these techniques, they start in one area and they come to the United States. They start like if the UK finds a good way to crush fucking protest, you could bet your ass it will be in the United States by Wednesday. Okay. So very rarely is there some new technique for crushing protests that is used in the UK that does not come to the United States in some manner. So this is not just a UK story, even though it's just a UK story. But it's not even all of the UK. Someone said hello from Scotland, and Scotland is getting out of this, at least at the moment. Police in England and Wales are to get new powers to shut down protests before disruption begins. And The Guardian left this out. By the way, The Guardian sometimes does good work, but a lot of the time they are captured by your ruling corporate shitbags. And I think the fact that they left the word peaceful out of this headline is part of the problem. Now, I'm not saying every protest has to be peaceful. There are there are protests that break windows that I support, depending on how they're breaking the window. But in this case, they're saying before disruption begins, meaning by definition, a peaceful protest, because it's before any disruption has begun. So that it has to be a peaceful protest. So this is a peaceful protest and they're getting new powers to disrupt to arrest the protesters. Police in England and Wales are to be given powers to shut down protests before any disruption begins under Rishi Sunak's, he's the new prime minister, plan for a public order crackdown, which aim to the plans. I was wondering why it was plural. Which aim to prevent tactics such as quote unquote slow marching. And let me again break down some of the propaganda language, because linguistics is so important. It's important in how we think. It's important in how we process things. It's important in the thoughts that come after the thing that is propaganda, often are impacted by the linguistics of the opening salvo, the opening sentence. And in this case, and I know that Guardian in this regard, I mean, I've a billion criticisms of the Guardian, such as why they haven't stood up for Julian Assange a little bit more when you fucking worked with him to have amazing reporting, and then you've hung him out to dry. Fuck you, Guardian. But that aside, let's put a smile on our faces, folks. And I know they're just using, in this case, they're just using the terminology of the bill of the parliament, but public order, plans for a public order crackdown. So they're saying these are plans to enforce public order. Well, yeah, but aren't a lot of protests, what is public order? To me, public order is everybody having a roof over their head. Like, that creates an order in public that is a positive. To me, public order is everybody not being destitute, not struggling, not starving, not hit with disease and unable to treat it. That, to me, that is public order. So when they say these are public order laws, you would think, oh, great, laws to house everybody, laws to make sure everybody has excellent health care, laws to make sure everybody is not struggling, they have a job if they want one, they have a livable wage if that's the way they want to do things, to have that job. Is that what you mean by public good? No, that's not what they mean. And it would be the same in the U.S. This is not a UK-U.S. difference. Public order means the laws that the ruling class wants to have so that we don't disrupt the status quo. That is public order, right? Stuff like, only so many people are allowed to get together. In New York, I guess until the pandemic, I haven't lived there in recent years, but I lived there for 12 years. And during Occupy, they had laws against masks. You couldn't wear a mask for the public order. It's like, fucking, what? How is that free? I should be free to wear a mask. If I want to dress up like fucking Batman, isn't that on me? Can't I be that weirdo? Can't wear a mask in public. Now, of course, they threw all that out for the pandemic and the masks, which they had they work now, they don't work then. They work, okay, they work some of the time, they work. No, it's like, fucking make up your mind. Do the masks do anything or not? Oh, we don't know. But okay, so plan for a public order crackdown. It sounds like they're cracking down on public order, the way that's phrased, which would be amazing if it was like, you folks are sitting there quietly. Stop that. That'd be a public order crackdown. But which aim to prevent tactics such as slow marching, which is, of course, a genius tactic, a great tactic. It is. So I guess in the UK, as with many places in the US, they have no loitering laws. You can't stand still. If anybody saw Most Censored News, which, by the way, I'm going to play the new episode of the Most Censored News at the end of this, so I'm giving away my own joke, which you'll see. But it's far more than this joke, so I don't mind giving it away. But loitering laws are the idea of cops, of guys with guns being like, you can't stand still for too long, because that is, ooh, why I oughta. How dare you stand still that long? It's insanity to have anti-loitering laws, but whatever. besides that, we have those laws. UK has, I guess, some version of that in many places. And so Azim says, masks stop your spittle from infecting others. Sorry, I'm reading a comment. I usually don't do that until the end, or often I don't do it until Fridays. But yes, that is true. Masks stop you from infecting others if you're in an enclosed space. Whereas at the beginning of the pandemic, they were telling everybody to wear masks outside, and they knew that didn't really matter. So it does decrease infection of people like facing each other and spitting in each other's eyes. There is some logic to it, but anyway. And also it depends on the type of mask and all that shit. But they didn't want to give us that type of complicated information at the beginning of this pandemic. Well, they still don't. And so they did not. They lied about the way masks work. Anyway, side story. Okay, so look, what was I talking about? Slow march. So they have laws against they're putting forward these new police crackdown laws, which will allow them to arrest people for slow marching. Now, slow marching is a way of getting around the no loitering laws, and the no loitering laws are bullshit. But let's pretend no loitering laws actually mattered. The slow marching was, okay, we're still moving, but we're moving so slow that we are disrupting traffic. We are fucking shit up. And for whatever cause, obviously this has been done for many different causes over the years. It's been done for Black Lives Matter. It's been done for environmental causes, climate change, etc. But should that not be legal? It absolutely should be legal. But I realize that what's legal doesn't always matter. Sometimes they will arrest you for things that you didn't do anything illegal. They arrest you anyway. But these new provisions in England and Wales, in British law, is designed to arrest protests, to allow police to arrest protesters who have not yet begun any kind of real disruption, meaning they're not even standing still. They're not even breaking a loitering law. And yet these new provisions in the law would allow police to arrest them. Sparking outrage from civil liberties campaigners, the government said it would be laying an amendment to the public order bill to toughen its crackdown on quote-unquote guerrilla tactics used mainly by environmental protesters. Yeah, but it's also used by all kinds of protesters. Mainly. What does mainly matter? And besides, they say that like that being an environmental protester is a bad thing. Those are my heroes, as I've said many times. It is intended to deal with protest groups changing tactics, such as slowing traffic to a crawling pace by carrying out walking protests through big cities. Yeah, that's the point of the protest, assholes, is to interrupt things, is to cause problems, is to make things uncomfortable and difficult. A protest that doesn't make anything uncomfortable or difficult, what was the point of that? When was the last time they were like, you know what, those people standing, I'll give you an example. I was at an anti-war protest. I don't remember the name of it, but it was at the Pentagon. Now, because they wanted it to be several hours long and they wanted to plan several speakers, I was one of them, Eleanor Goldfield, several others, Medea Benjamin, who I interviewed today. You can watch that at youtube.com/behindtheheadlines. But they wanted all these speakers. And if you want to do something that long and scheduled and here are the speakers, you have to know you will not be attacked mid-speech. And so these organizers who I was going to say I don't begrudge them this. I guess I am critical of their tactic. These organizers, what they did is they got a permit from the Pentagon. Now, the permit from the Pentagon and the state connected to the Pentagon, sure enough, allowed them to protest in the Pentagon parking lot. If you've never been to the Pentagon, it is massive. Okay, it's the size of like 2 IKEAs. I'm kidding. It's probably the size of 45 IKEAs, but still, it is massive. And to say you have a permit in the Pentagon parking lot, the Pentagon parking lot houses, when cars are there, houses thousands upon thousands of cars. Like if you were dropped off by a bus in the corner of the Pentagon parking lot, you would be hiking for 2 days to get to the Pentagon. Like that guy who gets the last parking spot, oh, that poor guy. So that is why everyone at the Pentagon is trying to become Employee of the Week so they can get that prime parking spot. That's the main goal. Okay, so they got a permit. The permit is the state, the Pentagon, saying, we don't mind if you're there. In fact, here are the hours you can be there. And so they had an area in the parking lot, and it was on a weekend, so there were no cars there. They had an area, probably a Sunday. They had an area that we could all go and we could speak in and we could be anti-war and everything. Nowhere near the Pentagon. The Pentagon was on the horizon. We had binoculars to see the people we were upsetting with our presence in the Pentagon parking lot. And my point is that kind of stuff is meaningless. Except the only part of it that has meaning, and I'm not saying this sarcastically, is to inform the people who are there. So if a lot of people come out to your protest and they want to hear about these topics and they are uninformed on them, that is great. That is wonderful. It's like someone standing up on a soapbox in a street corner and saying, let me tell you something. Fine. But don't act like you're changing policy. You're not influencing anything unless you interrupt business. So the idea that protesters would slow march or glue themselves to doors or chain themselves to things is the whole point. It's disruptive. It slows things down. It makes things harder to just go about business as usual. And that is the whole goddamn point. Anyway, sorry, I've got something in my throat. Sorry for all the throat clearing. Guardian continues, it is intended to deal with protest groups changing. Just Stop Oil protest has used walking protests to draw attention to the climate emergency after the government introduced laws to stop other forms of pop-up demonstrations. Pop-up means not permitted, if you were wondering, or not permitted. Both. And I do appreciate, I will give Guardian credit for this one word choice. Rather than saying climate change, they said attention to the climate emergency, which is what it fucking is. It's a goddamn climate emergency. The change would broaden and clarify the legal definition of quote-unquote serious disruption and allow police to consider protests by the same group or on different days or in different places as part of the same wider action. Aha, that's the bigger thing. Wow, even though I highlighted it, I didn't even process that. That's the biggest of all these stipulations. Arresting some people for slow marching is whatever, but counting various protests. So, and I think this is specifically aimed at Extinction Rebellion. Extinction Rebellion is it has many different chapters. Yes, it does have kind of a central leadership in an area. However, it also allows for chapters anywhere, and they don't control them. They don't. And so this means you have Extinction Rebellion chapters that may do things that you or I disagree with because they have been taken over by those trying to destroy the environmental fighters and, the efforts to fight for a sustainable, livable world, which is hilarious that we in this world, in our society, would have people fighting to, no, I want to breathe toxins. I want to drink garbage. I want to die. I want my children to die of extinction from climate change. We have people fighting for that, which is amazing. Amazing. But Extinction Rebellion has all these different chapters. Most of them do great work. And this law wants to make it so that all of that is counted as the same thing of the central organization. This would also allow for even more effective infiltration. All you have to do is take one small chapter of Extinction Rebellion. Oh, by the way, someone mentioned Greta. Greta was arrested. Actually, Greta was arrested today, Greta Thunberg, and the climate protest is worldwide and far more than Greta. The reason we talk about Greta is not her fault. It's the mainstream media's fault because they are incapable of actually covering the story unless it involves a 14-year-old girl. I know she's not 14 anymore, but unless it involves a 14-year-old girl. So that made it interesting for them. So the mainstream media covered her, and now she is the center of it, which she has said herself that she would like others to also be very prevalent in this climate fight. Anyway, she was arrested in Germany at the protests against the coal mines there, and I showed you the amazing video. I've showed you 2 videos from Germany in the past couple live streams. One of them is the insane machinery that is just destroying the earth in Germany, but the size of I don't know what's the largest thing you think of? Mike Pompeo, size of Mike Pompeo, but no, I'm kidding. It's the size of like fucking 15 football fields or whatever. It looks like something out of Avatar. These massive machines destroying Earth. By the way, Avatar 2, everyone should see it. And I know there's some issues with the whole indigenous fetishization stuff, but I think the general goal of Avatar is very noble. It's legit. He's trying to show people fighting to protect environment. But so Greta was arrested at the German protest. I also showed one of the police getting stuck in the mud, which was amazing. Amazing. Anyway, they could, I was saying this allows for basically all it would take is one, plainclothes police group to infiltrate one factor of Extinction Rebellion, and they then do some shit, let's say break some windows and injure some people, and then the police can say, oh, everything connected to Extinction Rebellion is now a violent organization. That's what this would allow for, which, according to the way The Guardian has worded this, which I think is accurate. Number 10 said, for those of you not in the world of British politics, number 10 means the Prime Minister. They call him number 10. Number 10 said it would mean that the police will not need to wait for disruption to take place and can shut protests down before chaos erupts. The amendment will now be debated in the House of Lords. By the way, if Britain was at all even beginning to be woke, stop calling yourself the House of Lords, okay? Stop comparing yourself to fucking gods, okay? You are no Thor. You are no Chris Hemsworth. You dickheads. Lords. They're the House of Lords. No, you're not. You're pathetic. You're pathetic. You're sad. You think your money's going to protect you from the shitstorm that's coming? It's not. It's not. It's not. I'm sorry. Sorry to reveal that to you. Okay. So speaking of police and the horrors that police do, I mean, I didn't really get into the horrors there, except saying they would be arresting people for peaceful protest. I have something that is, I'm going to drop all the comedy here, and that's the thing with doing a mixture of comedy and journalism, which is somehow where I ended up in life. Is that there are moments where I can't and have no desire to make it funny. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't cover dark topics. Most of what I cover is dark topics, but there's a difference between a broad, vague dark topic and a very individual, individual dark thing that has happened. And this next thing, which I think you should all know about because it has just happened. Okay, I'm not an expert on this stuff, so forgive me if I get any of it wrong, but in Atlanta, there's a great group of, and I'll show you their Instagram in a minute if you want to follow them. There's a great group of people defending the forest in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. And they're defending it from an effort to knock down a large amount of trees in one of the rare areas of Atlanta that has been kept closer to pristine, I guess. And So they're defending this forest, but it's going to be knocked down in order to create a combination of a police training center and a fake police / town that would be used for filming for Hollywood. Because Atlanta has done what some other cities in the US have done, which is give massive tax breaks to Hollywood to try and draw Los Angeles and Hollywood into their area to make films, because films spend shit tons of money. And they know that, so they figure if they give them massive tax breaks, they will go there. Another one was New Orleans, I know, did the same thing, or maybe Louisiana in general. But and there's other areas where they just want to bring income into the towns. So they give them massive tax breaks. So they're doing that in Atlanta, and so much of what you're seeing nowadays, series and stuff, are being filmed in Atlanta or Georgia in some way. Someone here is saying Walking Dead is filmed there, but they're going to knock down some of this forest in order to build a fake town that will be used for police training and Hollywood filming. But this is where believe it or not, that is not the dark part of this story. This is just it's just been posted today. This is coming from Defend Atlanta Forest Instagram account. Today, the police shot and killed a protester in Weelaunee Forest. Dozens of heavily armed DeKalb police, Atlanta police, and Georgia State Police shut down Weelaunee People's Park, which what they're calling the protest movement there, the protest group, and nearby streets before entering the tree line with guns drawn and heavy machinery poised to continue forest destruction. Police have repeatedly raided this public park, flattened the community gardens and art installations, attacked protesters with chemical weapons and rubber bullets, and threatened legal force. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, chemical weapons illegal according to the Geneva Conventions, unless you use them on your own people. If you use them on your own citizens, chemical weapons, totes fine. During past raids, police have consistently escalated violent tactics on peaceful people who were sitting in trees or walking through the public park. Since June 6, 2022, activists and community members fighting to defend the Atlanta forest and stop Cop City, that's what they're calling the Hollywood thing that's being built, Cop City, have been demanding that officers stop bringing weapons into the forest after APD, or Atlanta Police, pointed their weapons at peaceful protesters. The police and local news are working together to control the flow of information, leaving us with vague news reports that suggest the officer fired at the civilians in self-defense. So, I'll keep reading here in a second, but they're saying they don't know the exactly what happened, but a innocent protester, and I mean innocent as in this is not a murderer, has been murdered by police. It also seems to be unclear as to whether the police killed the person with a rubber bullet, with tear gas canisters, which both can kill people. Tear gas canister fired at close range could kill someone, and a rubber bullet can kill someone if it hits them correctly or incorrectly. Depends on your view of what should happen with fucking rubber bullets. Anyway, to continue from Defend Atlanta Forest, we know they will say and do anything to prevent an Atlanta police officer from being viewed as another Derek Chauvin, including withholding, distorting, or deleting evidence. Supporters of the movement are calling on legal observers and journalists to document the violent police tactics being used against protesters. Since the fatal shooting, this morning's operation has continued with Brassfield and Gorey's heavy machinery, I guess those are corporations, entering the forest, and cops shooting pepper balls at people who remain in the park as if nothing has happened. The loss of our lives remains meaningless to the police. Police killed a forest defender for loving this earth, for taking a stand against the ongoing destruction of the planet and its people, Indiscriminate police murder, unfettered police violence is exactly why people have, for 2 years, called for the Cop City project to be canceled immediately. As politicians invest in cops' militarization and police budgets are only increasing. Meanwhile, police murders peaked in 2022. Police murders peaked in 2022. U.S. cops killed 100 people every month. And according to Lancet Medical Journal, that is actually half the accurate number, because only half of police murders are actually called murders by police in the books and in the media. So therefore, literally, it's when they say here it's 100 people a month, it's actually 200 people a month. What is taking place is a classic example of tyrannical government overreach. The public has a right to defend its interests. We are advocates of a free and peaceful society built on cooperation and mutual understanding. The government is escalating the situation pointlessly. Allow peace to return to our community. Cancel the Cop City project. Return Entrenchment Creek Park to the public. Drop the charges against protesters. No one can bring our friend back to us. An innocent life has been taken, and the machines continue. Wherever you are, we invite you to come to Atlanta Friday, January 20th, for a candlelight vigil to remember and grieve our lost friend. We will not go quietly into this dark night. RIP with love and solidarity. No Cop City, no holiday, no Hollywood dystopia. Defend the forest. There it is, folks. And to say it again, if you want to follow this information, I very much think you should go to Defend Atlanta Forest, one word, on Instagram, and you will get this information as well as other information. If you're near Atlanta, I hope you can make it to that. I cannot, unfortunately, on the 20th. But as we know, this is thousands of people killed by our police every year. Peaceful people. This is yet another, even though this may be a unique circumstance in the sense that it is not a lone person. This is a group of people defending the forest in Atlanta, attempting to defend it peacefully, but simply by being there, simply by holding space. But one of them clearly has been murdered. I mean, I certainly hope there's not another one throughout this. By the police. And this is what our police do. They run into every situation as if they are fighting a war against our own citizens. Their goal, supposedly, ostensibly, which is bullshit, although they claim it, is to protect and serve the people. But that is not what police do. And that is not what they did in this situation. And yet again, we see police assaulting, and in this case, murdering our own civilians in order to allow for corporations to destroy our environment. So that shows who they're serving. They're serving the corporations. These are corporate killers at times. Many times they aren't just doing killing, obviously. They're just serving corporate interests without killing. But in this case, corporate murderers. And I think it's time that we understand that is how our police system works. All right, I'm going way over time on many of these stories. So, and by the way, just to wrap up, I want to send my love and respect to all of those people fighting in that forest, fighting to defend that forest. As I've said many times, these are the true heroes, not the people, not the Confederate soldiers who have statues across our land. Or many of the other people have statues across our land. And that goes for many countries, you know. The UK, God, how many statues do you have of giant colonizers? I'm sure. But these are the real heroes. These are the ones who don't get a statue, often don't even get a media article talking about them. I mean, who knows whether the media will even cover, maybe some local media, cover that protester was killed by police. All right. I'm at least getting to two of these stories. God damn it. This is just too much. Too much going on. Oh, by the way, in about 10 more minutes, we'll be going to only rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's rumble.com/Lee Camp. Please, when you get over there, click the follow button. Click the green follow button. Also, I'd love for you to click the red locals button, which lets you join my community. So that'd be awesome too. But at the very least, click the green follow button when you get over to rumble.com/Lee Camp. I continue to try and build up my presence there. I'm the most censored comedian in America. I have my entire YouTube channel with 250,000 subscribers, as well as over 2,000 videos banned globally. So that's why I need you to join me at rumble.com/Lee Camp. But let's get to Big Pharma and how we now have proof that they have heavily suppressed the conversation on Twitter. So this is coming from Lee Fong at, he writes, he often writes for The Intercept, but, and he does good work. I say that with that tone in my voice because some of The Intercept does not do good work. Some of them are, I don't even know what to call them. I don't know, corporate stooges. But he does good work. And this, I don't think is for The Intercept. This is just his own investigation. So it's a new piece from the Twitter files, which is Elon Musk, despite all of his faults. I could say I've done many a segment on how Elon Musk crushes unions. Elon Musk censors people he doesn't like. Elon Musk has been closely linked to the CIA and their venture capital arm since 2002, at least, maybe even before that. So this is not, don't celebrate Elon Musk as your hero. However, in this case, he's done something positive for us, which is revealed internal documents from Twitter now that he owns the thing. And this new piece from Lee Fong shows how the pharmaceutical industry lobbied social media to shape content around vaccine policy. And it's even worse than you think. It is not just suppressing, we can assume, people who had questions about the vaccine, but it's also suppressing anyone who said that people in other countries should be allowed to be vaccinated for free and allowed to fight COVID-19 for free. And, for those of you who don't understand this, there are many vaccines around the world. Cuba created one, Russia created one. So it's not all one vaccine, but our big pharma protected their patent and wants to make billions upon billions of dollars from this. And therefore, they're not just stopping people from having an open patent. They're also stopping people from discussing it on Twitter. The push included direct pressure from Pfizer partner BioNTech to censor activists demanding low-cost generic vaccines for low-income countries. In 2020, it was clear that the pandemic would require rapid innovation. Early on, there was a push to make the solution equitable, an international partnership to share ideas, technology, new forms of medicine to rapidly solve this crisis. But global drug giants saw the crisis as an opportunity for unprecedented profit. Behind closed doors, Pharma launched a massive lobbying blitz to crush any effort to share patents or IP for new COVID-related medicine, including therapeutics and vaccines. And this is such a key point that especially AstraZeneca said that the patent for their vaccine would be free for all to use. They would give it to Africa for free. And Bill Gates specifically is known to have contacted AstraZeneca, which I believe is a European company, and convince them, or maybe threaten them, I don't know, but convince them that they should not release their patent, that they should not give away their vaccine for free to Africa, etc. And he succeeded. And this is proof that these big pharma firms were stopping the conversation on Twitter about such things. Lee Fong continues, Bio, the lobby group that represents big pharma, including Moderna and Pfizer, wrote to the newly elected Biden administration demanding the U.S. government sanction any country attempting to violate patent rights and create generic, low-cost COVID medicine or vaccines. That brings us to Twitter. The global lobbying blitz includes direct pressure on social media. BioNTech, which developed Pfizer's vaccine, reached out to Twitter to request that Twitter directly censor users tweeting at them to ask for generic, low-cost vaccines. You have to understand, like, how that's extreme. I mean, this is not just, which is wrong to begin with, but this is not just Big Pharma censoring and suppressing people on Twitter who question whether the vaccine had been appropriately tested, those types of questions. It is beyond that to censoring people who say that everyone around this world should have a right to live. Like, that is what these protesters and activists were saying, and that is what is being suppressed here, which is pretty incredible. But it also shows how our mainstream works. Mainstream media, our mainstream social media outlets. So Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc., Instagram. It shows that they are beholden to Big Pharma, to these other massive entities, big oil, big ag. And when they are pressured, they will censor all of the criticism of all of those things. I was attacked for doing an entire episode on Cargill, about how Cargill is one of the worst corporations in the world. Horrific factory farming practices, and owning much of our farm to plate production cycle, and of course jacking up the prices and causing world hunger in the process. And I was attacked for that. So it's not just Big Pharma, it's Big Ag, it's so many of these entities. Earlier in the Twitter files, we covered, I covered Matt Taibbi talking about it, that the FBI had come to Twitter and would just have them ban all sorts of accounts just because they made some comment that the FBI didn't like. The FBI also came to Twitter and asked them the FBI and the U.S. government said, show that these Russian bots are doing something. And Twitter couldn't even find out what they were talking about, but they were trying to make the FBI and the U.S. government happy. So I'm going to continue the rest of this at rumble.com/leadcamp. That's rumble.com/leadcamp. Free to watch over there, free to be a part of it. So join me over there. And